think maybe,
Because wasn't there two? I seen something come through.
yeah, that's
Jude.
a footpath.
Yes, and the footpath.
Jude never came back to me.
With what she
do-
wants to talk
No,
about. No.
actually made to that.
Oh, yeah. Last person.
Yeah, Elaine, where do you want to go?
I don't know.
I can move my bits over if you want to switch in.
I was thinking back here.
Yeah. Out of the way.
I know.
And I guess Richard will speak to the first report, Elaine. And you're just here to, yeah. report it.
So if you do,
Yeah,
what about the room?
yeah, I've all sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, talk to Janine, she's my pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. But I think we'll be.
People go to.
Yeah.
Right.
And yes,
Yeah, perfect.
That should be sweet.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. 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 So that's great. And just close down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Richard's given me that.
Yeah. Yes.
Massive apologies. If you see me second way, that's the reason why. So
Yeah.
it's all good. So well, you've got to get home safe. I'll be fine, but I just
I know. Yeah. It's fine.
if it was a straight road, it would be super.
no, you're looking very young. Just saying.
Not like a nana.
Definitely don't look like a nana.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, dear. I know. I went straight down to the shop and got a hair colour.
Call me a nana.
Hello, am I coming through the speakers? Hello.
Hey, welcome to the April meeting of the Community Board. I'll ask Tarina if she, deputy board member, she could give a colour here, please. It's already on the screen in a moment.
That's all right. I can just read this one. Not coming up.
Just read it.
I'll just read this one.
Oh, there it is.
Manawa mai te mauri nuku, manawa mai te mauri rangi. Ko te mauri pai au, he mauri tipua. Ka pakaru mai te pō. Tau mai te mauri, haumia, huia, āhie.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the election of a new board chair, following my resignation from that role. And we have the draft resolution in front of us. If you've got the agenda there. So can I call on nominations for chairman, please?
Would like to nominate councillor Brett.
Maru, any seconder for that? So the other, any other nominations?
I'm just thinking about it. None.
No,
Thanks.
All
Someone else?
sorry. Okay, there's one nomination. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Turn my phone off. Yeah. And do you want to swap seats? It'd be much easier.
Much more comfortable here. Thanks, David.
These
Today. And just, David, thank you for your service and thank you for your time as board chair. So brings us down to apologies. So we have an,
Brent, the mover and seconder is those 5 items, board. Presuming that was the case with, the name as Alex. So it's all 5 items.
a check with the mover in a second.
I assume that, yes.
Okay, I'm not sure if everyone else assumed that was moved and seconded, is all those 5 recommendations in the report. Just want to clarify. Sorry, Brent.
That's with page 6. Okay, thank you. Okay, so apologies. There's an apology from Councillor Walker. Somebody to move.
Right.
Moved by board member Hughes, seconded by board. All those in favour, please say aye. There's no others. We're all here. Public forum. So we do this.
Tell you what, like, whoever organised this did a really back to front thing, because you guys talk here and we can't hear, so if it's around this way, then it would be all open, but never mind. It's just details, isn't it?
Big brother.
Anyway, speaking of details, just here, like, beautiful, love this, right, love this. It just says here, setting our priorities for the next 10 years. We are running several small facilitated workshops throughout the district, working with locals to find key things, test the current ones, and look to the future. The outcomes from these workshops will be shared online via Shape Tasman, and you can join the conversation here. Let us know your views and provide any feedback. Yay. However, I had a question here. What was it? Okay, yeah. How many of you know how many people are not online in our community? Great big community it is. Do you know the numbers of how many people don't do online?
30% maybe?
I guess too, the great thing is you get to present and we'll record that, but you
Yep.
get to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
The reason I'm coming at it like that is because I've been a census deliverer and collector. So I've been on my feet to each, I wouldn't say each and every household, but quite a damn few of them, you know, every day between, I'm taking my lunch out now, between pretty much 10 and 5:30 or 6, house to house, okay? There are so many people, I've actually done their forms because they don't do online, either because they are older, in which case they've been paying rates a lot longer than we have. At least give them a chance. And then I was speaking to a young one the other day. She goes, oh, look, I do online all the time. I come home and we don't have online at home. Okay, so the only way she, with her family, or he, them, will know about this is if it comes in the mailbox. Please, that's my point. Please keep it in the mailbox.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Thank you.
Come on, ask me one.
I think it's a good point you make, and I think it's noted.
Okay.
Emma or Mr. Kirby, I'm just going off this list, but I don't have probably everybody that's there, I suspect. Oh, thank you. There's 2 lists. We'll do this list first then. Mike Brown. Hi, Mike. Did you want to go post Fred?
I'll let everybody know that I'm here representing the Motueka Lions Group in support of the swimming pool group, and I will go back and take my seat until they've spoken, and if necessary, I might have the opportunity to.
Do that. Thanks, Mike. Mr. Williams. Ian.
Have to lose a seat.
Yeah. That's right.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Community Board and members of the public. Further to a recent conversation with MP Maureen Pugh last Thursday, and in response to her advice I wish to request that our community board write to the Tasman District Council recommending that before cycle lanes are suggested along High Street, that we use the money given to Motueka by the government to purchase land for the purpose of a heavy truck bypass. I understand Chamberlain Street has been suggested and also Queen Victoria Street, so there are two options previously as a possibility, as it lines up perfectly with Main Road, Ruaka. And number two, a resident on Thorpe Street advised me recently that they have noticed an increase of heavy trucks on their street because they are avoiding the new traffic lights on High Street. Also, a neighbour of mine advised me recently that more traffic is coming down Parker Street to turn at Wilkie Street and avoid the large hump in Poole Street. Number three, MP Maureen Pugh, when I asked her as to the replacement for our Motueka Bridge, she assured me after she and another MP witnessed camper vans passing on the bridge and wiping their side mirrors off, that this bridge was totally unsafe for the volume and type of traffic it was required to cope with. It is on their government's priority list for a replacement as a proper two-lane bridge. And number four, in the event of a power cut, is it intended for the new Parker Street water treatment plant to have a standby generator? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Wood. So we'll pick them up in the later on in the thing. I met your disposal, so I've got Paul, Fred, and then potentially Mike. What order would you guys like to speak?
Probably best I go first.
Okay, then, Fred.
Okay.
Because Paul was before you on the list, so I'm okay, happy.
And I'm Alison. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the one of the people happy enough to be on the Motueka Pool Committee, and I'm sort of was hoping about 10 or 15 years ago I might be swimming in the pool, but as we all know, it's gone on for a little while, and hopefully this time we might be able to make some progress. I've just put a few bullet points here. This meeting, I believe, is here to expose the latest feasibility study to the community. This being the full feasibility study, confirming the fact that Motueka has needed an aquatics facility for over the last 25 years. So I'm sure we all know that. We hope that the TDC will now allow this opportunity to not disappear again. The latest studies confirmed the need and recommended a more substantial facility that the more budget one proposed by the Pool Committee. Obviously, a more future-proof model is more desirable, but very dependent on the TDC budget, site location, and suitability. There's still scope for the Pool Committee's original plan to be expanded in its original site. We are fully aware that we have our local community support with our councils, community board and service clubs for the rest of the town. Basically, we've got the Paul here and Mike to follow that up. Over the long years of waiting for a community pool, a large amount of frustration has developed in the town, and at times the Pool Committee has borne the brunt of it. And we only have to talk to one or two about people that's here tonight. I mean, I don't go on Facebook, but if you see some of the rubbish that's put on there, where's all the money gone? When are we going to get the pool and all this sort of stuff? I mean, I kick it to touch, but there's other people a bit more sensitive than I am on these things. And they just getting a bit tiring for those that's been on the committee a long time, quite rude at times. And anyway, where are we? Times the pool committee. Yeah. With this in mind, more delays and setbacks won't be easily swallowed. It is important that we make some informed decisions and very soon move on. The other thing I've got to say as well is the fact that from the latest feasibility study, there has been this sort of insight that we need future proofing, etc., next 50 years. But the thing is, it's no good waiting 5 years by sorting that out for the next 50 years. Because I mean, a lot of the time we've spent in recent times, we've taken 2 or 3 years to what should be done in about 6 months. And I'm not saying that's anybody's particular fault. I mean, I know that a lot of the TDC workers, there been short of people to work, there been people off work and all the rest of it. So if they're not there, they can't do the job. But I think we could also sort of switch on a bit more and get moving with the project. Anyway, this is dependent on all of us to make it happen. Over the years, the pool committee has worked very hard to establish ourselves in the LTP again. And now the ball is firmly in the hands of the TDC, which it is, because previous years we've been driving to get accepted back onto the long-term plan. And now we have, and it's pretty obvious that most of the people that I'm aware of in the council, whether councillors or council workers, are aware of the fact that this town really needs an aquatic centre of some description. And we don't just mean a little, pool. It needs something, pretty substantial. But like I said earlier, where we were looking at putting the pool on Rugby Park, there's still room to do something there in the event of the TDC being enabled through circumstances not to achieve that goal. So we can still do something else that is a bit more budget. It would cost more than what we were looking in the first place, but would be quite a considerable benefit to the town. Finally, the current report on the status of the pool project from the TDC would make good reading and alleviate any ignorance within the community. Because a lot of the crap that we get is basically born from ignorance. Like they don't know what's going on. I mean, we put plenty of stuff in the Guardian, in the newspapers, on Facebook. People even saying, where's all our money gone? I said, it's still bloody there, not spent. The only money we ever spend is from sausage sizzles that we've all worked hard to do. So anyway, that's all I've got to say at the moment.
Any questions?
Fire away.
Seems to be none.
Is it more that you want some clearer communication in the community so they?
Well, there is, I mean, there's things that I'm aware of that I can totally understand from the council that they can't divulge certain things that aren't available to the public now, simply for obvious reasons that like the sensitive things like this, and which is fair enough, but there's far more that could be put out. And rather than the pool committee trying to make up to the public that, oh, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, we're always telling them we're doing, it's all going okay and all the rest of it, which it is, but it's very slow. And we need to make some pretty important decisions soon and get moving. And like I say, we don't want to spend 5 years sorting out 50-year plan. We want to get going next year like we're going to. And it's easy enough to do, quite honestly.
I've got one question.
Yeah.
Remember, yes.
I was going to ask, so do you have a representative from TDC you're in contact with over this? Or like, do you receive regular updates?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, there's that. I can't say. I think something now, though, because of the position we're in now, it needs to come from the TDC rather than the pool committee. Whether it's our councillors or other workers from the TDC that can head that. It needs to come from somewhere up here and us down here. So people know what's going on.
I'm conscious we'll probably use 5 minutes, but the question I have is, you touched on it. So the concept on Rugby Park is still an opportunity in terms of the pool committee's view, if the other one is deemed to be not a council.
Yeah, we could still do it there. It would cost more than what we were looking at in the first place, because we would expand it, go more towards what's been suggested in the recent feasibility studies. Not the full whack, but yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Hayward.
That's all.
Thanks very much.
Paul Hayward, I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Motueka. I'm chairman of a committee specifically for developing the Motueka community swimming pool. I'm chairman of that. We did in fact give $8,000 back in 2018 in terms of our commitment to the swimming pool committee. Last year, we actually have made a decision that in fact all of our main project for the next 2 years is going to be to in fact fundraising for the Motueka swimming pool project. Towards that, we actually ran an Ambrose golf tournament back in October. By that stage, we actually had hoped to have the report or some feedback from the feasibility study at that stage, but of course now it's only just becoming available now. But that Ambrose golf tournament, we raised just under 20,000 that will go towards the pool. We have a commitment to in fact increase that given time and a decision to proceed that will take us up towards the 100,000. But we cannot make the next move until in fact we have a knowing commitment. And I believe that that is the case for a lot of people. I'd like to give a medal to the swimming pool committee in terms of the tenacity over such a long period. When you look at this community right now, there is nothing more urgent than in fact a swimming pool complex as in fact has been projected. The TDC, in my view, particularly from the attitude towards the feasibility study, has been one of positive and in fact future proofing, which in fact I actually have to support. To the point that in fact it's now time for the TDC and particularly you people here today to in fact take a leadership role on behalf of the Motueka community. I'm delighted that in fact we're here today. I had hoped that we'd actually have the presentation of the feasibility study or the key points of it. I'm disappointed that this fact is not the case. I'm also disappointed that in fact that the long-term plan has had the 3 million that was promised within the current 22-23 has now been deferred. Now, I would suggest that what the other role that you as our community board must do is to in fact have that reconciled in some shape or form. Through the raising or the running of the Ambrose golf tournament, I was determined that in fact we needed the sponsorship. We needed a lot of small business sponsorship. And I reckon I've been into every shop and business along High Street and a number of other businesses as well. Initially, I didn't quite know what response I was going to get. I've been blown away by the fact that at long last, there was some comment and some information about the swimming pool development. The support we got was just absolutely fantastic. For that Ambrose golf tournament, we would have had the best prize value factor that any Ambrose golf tournament's ever had. So you've not only got the interest out there, there was also the frustration, and Fred mentioned that within the community of not knowing what the hell's going on. The members of like Fred and that have been involved in this feasibility study have not been able to even tell me what the detail is. There is absolute lack of any plan or forecast in terms of the development of this facility. I am delighted that in fact that the options for positioning of this pool has been looked at. I think that's a real positive. But the next positive is for this community board to be a leadership in terms of convincing the other councils of the TDC that this is in fact not only a priority for Motueka, it's a priority for the whole district. And I plead that you do that. But I am really concerned and disappointed about the deferment of in fact what had been a commitment of that 3 million. And you know, what is the time frame for the development of this pool? We are absolutely desperate as a community to get some idea of a plan and a commitment. And that allows us to, in fact, then raise more money as the pool committee can through the big sponsors that are available here in New Zealand to, in fact, support. You're not only providing a need to provide that leadership for this community, but you've already got the support of the community. You've got the support of organisations like Motueka Rotary and I know the Lions that in fact are prepared to put a hell of a lot of effort and a lot of money into this project. Please, please provide that centre point, that leadership role. We're badly needed it.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, I can't match that sort of speaking.
Done a little bit.
Michael Brown representing the Motueka Lions. I've brought this up before, but I want to say it again so that you people who are representing us can talk to the council about not only the swimming pool, but the Lions situation. Basically, our interest is in the building of a therapeutic pool that can only be done if the swimming pool complex is underway. As Paul has said, everything, I agree, everything he said, we need to know where it's going, how it's happening, et cetera, and the cost of a therapeutic pool, we decided to take that on to raise funds for it for our centennial project. Lions have been running for 100 years, and there were special funds available for a Lions project, and this was our chosen one back in 2018. Since then, things have happened. We had thorough support from the Lionesses. We had a President, John Fisher, a lot of you will know, who started this project, who is now no longer with us. Things have changed. We have money set aside for the pool, and because we have had absolutely no indication of when, how, when, and the costing of the things going ahead, it's got to the stage now that I'm talking our next meeting, which is on Tuesday, we're going to decide whether we actually pull the plug on this. Because there are things that have happened. There are, I think I can mention that the Lionesses, I know more. Their funds are set aside. What's going to happen to them, it's not up to me. So you're talking $50,000 or more sitting there that the swimming pool complex had available to them. Whether that's still available, I don't know. The same applies to the Lions. I asked everyone at the Lions to come to this meeting and support, and to show you how enthusiastic they are. It's just myself and Kevin. They don't want a bar of it anymore because you have not put our project to the fore as we wanted to do. We wanted to commit ourselves, and we see other projects that need us. We would rather give some money to the Riding for the Disabled, for example, and support other local activities. So I don't know where you're going to, I think you might be too late. I need someone to tell me either tonight or over the phone over the next couple of days that I hear things hush hush, and it's like cloaks and daggers and mirrors and oh yeah, they're going to buy this and do that and something else. It doesn't help. There's no stability, and it's been like that ever since we started. And the frustration is it's taken me all of my time to keep the guys interested. And Fred knows, because it's like, and Fred can't help, you know, because he's not getting that information he needs to tell us, to tell the community who are saying to us, well, we've done this and we've given some money, and I'm walking down the street. Hey, how's that going on? I said, well, I don't really know about the swimming pool. Oh, yeah, what about your other complex for the therapeutic pool? I went to the doctors today for a checkup. She says, remember, I can remember, how long ago was it? Well, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago when you came in here. And I said to her, I said, is there any need for a therapeutic pool here? And she said to me, every doctor in this practice would have 10 people who would benefit tremendously from a therapeutic pool in our community. Please go ahead and do it. And that's what's encouraged me
and I'm getting emotional now because I feel like I've let her down. And other people.
Thanks, Mike. Hell yeah. The hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir.
I congratulate you on your gaining the chairmanship. I'm sure she will be very pleased. Will breathe easily because the alternative might have been Nicholas Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
My name's Ray Hallier, and I'm concerned about hazards not being recognised. I don't believe the council are competent in recognising hazards that impact on its residents. Take the burial of cars at Peach Island as an example. It was stated by Adrian Humphreys that this was a fantasy being developed by Ray Hallier and Brett Stevens. It would have been safer to have taken cars away from the site, yet they buried them there. So the fantasy became a reality when one of the cars washed out and so became a hazard. Two ratepayers raised concerns about forestry slash at the first public forum of the year. Has the board recognised the hazard of forestry slash on landowners living near the banks of our rivers? What are they doing about it? Another hazard that appears to be ignored by the board and the council is a build-up of gravel in our river channels. Staff are ignoring calls to clear this gravel build-up at our peril. During a weather event, the river flows wider, causing erosion of the banks. I know because I lived on one. And it's like rust. It never sleeps. Once it starts, it never sleeps. Erosion has a serious consequences for landowners bordering the rivers. Every time the river rises, it takes more land. The silt from the erosion that's carried into the sea has damaging consequences for marine life. Could the board ensure that the council is continually reminded of the emanating from forestry slash and gravel build up of our rivers? Thank you.
Mr. Elliott. Mr. Ogilvie. This is really overwhelming. You're right, having to get back to all of you people.
It's all rearranged there, no. If I sit down, Mr.
Oh, Mr. Ogilvie, you've earned the right to sit down.
First of all, I want to thank you, David, for your service and contribution as chair over the last few months. And just by the way, Cliff Satherley walked in a few minutes ago. So with Cliff, Brent and myself, there are 4 chairmen of the committee board present. And it's a diverse and quite demanding job. And so I appreciate the work you've done, and probably thanks to Cliff and thanks to Brent for your work over the last few years as well. A question arises with this room, Paul. Is that perhaps the councillors can answer the question, has the 3 million been dropped from the proposed long-term plan? It's a rhetorical question at this stage, Mr. Chair.
I understand, Mr. Ogilvie.
Because effectively I've come tonight to talk about the Courtney Street property. It's on page 15 to 24 of your agendas. If you can refer particularly to page 24, and while you're doing that, I'll just explain that my interest really is to the policies of the Motueka Harbour and Coastal Works Reserve and how that reserve fund can be allocated. At present, the fund exceeds $5 million in assets. of which about 2.5 million is available cash. How and where that money is spent is shown on the map on page 24. It's the area in pink. If you've got the map in front of you, please note it extends from the mouth of the Rewalker River into the Motueka River mouth along the coastline, the Motree Inlet, and the Tasman, and then to the Kina Peninsula and Bluffs. It's important and critical to note that the only land included in that pink area is Jacket Island. It's hard to see because it's covered in pink. It does not include Courtney Street, nor any land around Port Motueka, for example. In fact, the reserve policies clearly state that no land other than Jacket Island can be funded. Also, the fund states that no money can be used for roading or river works. These are also expressly excluded. Then if you go back to page 22, 2 pages, there's the heading background. The High Court decision of 2009 is mentioned. Cliff Satherley may remember this. The High Court gave a vital governance and management role of this reserve to the Motueka Community Board. And moreover, any changes in the policies is the responsibility of the Community Board. Public consultation is expected, given the controversies of that time, but also the importance of the fund, and also because it includes areas like Tasman and Kina, which are outside the boundaries of the Motueka ward. I therefore consider the $60,000 which you talked about in your agenda today to come from that fund is wrong. It should not come from that fund. The money being sought could easily come from the council's own property fund, spread across the district. What can come from the council's commercial enterprises committee. So until the Motueka Harbour and the coastal work policies have been appropriately debated and amended, likely, this funding can't come from that particular reserve account. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you. Now, according to my run sheet, that's everybody that we had for public forum.
All right.
Okay. Was any questions? No. Thanks, David. Okay. So, well, that was a big. What I need to just say, I guess before we go to the agenda, just in case anybody here is specifically here to hear anything about the swimming pool, is those items are in confidential and they're public excluded today. So when we get to that, it'll just be the board members and the councillors and staff that are in the room for that. So let's move on to Dan, I think, right beside us. Welcome, Dan. So update in terms of transport choice. Oh, sorry, I've missed a few steps.
Yeah.
The minutes. I'd like to move the minutes true and correct. Moved, Deputy Chair Graham, seconded, Board Member Armstrong. All those in favour say aye. Carry. Yes. Carried. Declarations of interest, are there any?
I will in confidential.
Okay, so in confidential, we'll pick that up as well. Yes, thank you. It's funny, isn't it? It's like riding a bike, you do actually forget. Board Member Nolan, which want to sit at the table with the seat here with your name on it. Welcome. Okay, Dan, we're in your hands.
All right.
Speedy update, I feel this is going to be.
Speedy update.
All right, right now.
That wishful thinking.
Yes. It's not me that's having a bad start. Oh, no, yeah. I have to do it the old-fashioned way without a pencil. This is helpful. This is something that we can talk about. Does a PowerPoint include conversations you've been having with residents today? Could you wing something in between while we get this thing?
We could. Do you want to field, should we field some questions while this is? I've got
Okay, in your hands, Dan.
Kia ora, everyone. My name's Dan Roberts. For those of you that haven't crossed me before, but I think I've presented to most of you before fairly recently. And this is Amy Shattuck, who's our communications and engagement specialist for the project. And yeah, just wanted to come along today and give you a bit of an update on how things are going. Yeah, and that will be, so I'll give you a bit of an update on design progress to date and show you some specific designs. We'll talk about some of the key feedback we've had from door-to-door surveys and other public consultation, and then a brief program update at the end. Big purpose of today is to provide you guys with an opportunity to give feedback on any of the design or anything else, as well as giving you that update. Thanks, Emma. So design progress in terms of detailed designs, we've got 2 detailed designs that we've finished, or nearly finished. So there's the Old Wharf Road raised crossing, which we talked about in my last presentation. So it's a raised pedestrian crossing on Old Wharf Road between the rec centre and the inlet walkway on the other side. And then the Minoy to Talbot linking path at the back of the rugby ground there, which is an existing gravel path, which you guys will be familiar with. And so we're sealing that path, which would make it more friendly to small wheel users, as well as formalising it a bit. This is what the raised crossing on Old Wharf Road looks like. So we've got, this is the one of the entrances into the rec centre, just to sort of orientate you a bit. This is the path that goes on down next to the Thorpe drain there, and the inlet walkway is at this end. Skate park's over here. So it's a raised pedestrian crossing, as you've seen Similar to what's at the Old Wharf roundabout, except would be doing this one out of concrete. So the version 1 of the Old Wharf roundabout raised crossings. And this is a dual crossing. So you'll see there's this pedestrian side and a cyclist side. Some quite large sort of landing points for pedestrians and cyclists at each end. And yeah, there's not much more to it than that. I believe Amy's had a conversation with you, Brent, which we'll come to in the later section. But it's in terms of the exit into the centre, the only change there we're proposing is to make this an entry only. Coming out of there's too much going on, is what the safety engineers tell us, and they're concerned about safety if drivers could exit from that point. So we're proposing to make it an only, which Brent in principle, I believe, was in favour of. Or
you're forcing me into a conflict of interest. On another hand, yes.
Summarize the conversation.
Yeah.
That there were current usage that we need to be aware of, which was the water trucks coming in as well. So that would still need to require an entry, otherwise that would force 3-point turning, which would be unsafe on that road. So there would still need to be an entry in there. But in principle, it wouldn't be too problematic to make that an entry only. So it's current usage.
So happy to take questions on the way through, or if you want to just jot anything down and we can address the question.
Yeah, just so I can get orientated. So where the new car park entrance was going to be, that's further down, isn't it? There. Yeah.
So that's
where I was thinking.
We've shown that there. So
so that's not going to cause any, like you said, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And so that's still.
Yeah, no, we're aware that there is a lot going on there, and we still feel like it's a drastic improvement on the current situation, which is a very unsafe crossing point, uncontrolled crossing point. But there is a lot going on, and that's why we've showed this on the plans, and that's been reviewed by Via Strata, the independent safety engineers as well, and so they're pretty happy with the design as it sits at the moment.
And that will be an in and out, won't it? Entrance.
Yeah. But it's not quite as close to the crossing as as this one here.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Okay.
So you're saying the rec centre entrance is going to be one way?
It's just this entrance, just the entrance on this eastern end.
It's going to be
eastern one, which will stay as it is, which is in
okay. So this one's entrance only.
Yeah.
Is there going to be some modifications to the other entrance exit? Because that can become a tricky, narrow when you're trying to bring out as well.
We hadn't planned on doing anything for the other entrance. What do you mean? What?
Or just for visual, like, so for me personally, I usually go out this entrance. So it's just easier clearer to see when you're turning left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we can just check that. Do a physical check on the visibility when exiting that other entry exit.
So there might have been some comment from some conversation in terms of looking at that entry exit, because there's trees and bits as well where it's widened. But I think there might be some feedback for that.
Okay.
Just remembering that at pressure point's really busy piece of road from both industrial users of that road and recreational users.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do some physical testing of that. I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but so sorry, just digress slightly. We have got a presentation to the governance panel tomorrow, where we'll be looking at not all of these designs, but there'll be 3 designs in particular that we'll be asking for approval on, and this is one of them. In an ideal ideally, I'd like to be able to say that we've presented this to the community board and if nobody has any objections, and that could be minuted. I'm not sure how that would work or whether that's.
You asked me in a minute something without a report in front of us. Is there any recommendations in this presentation? I guess we can give you an indication of the board's view, which you want to do in parts, or do you want to do at the end of this?
Let's do it at the end of this. Yeah.
I guess if there's any more questions on Old Wharf Road, it's a good time to ask now.
I think the only feedback you've got is that in doing this, you need to check the other entrance way and make sure site distances are okay.
Yeah, no, Amy's made note of those things. So yeah. Cool. Okay.
Well, I want to ask, are we comfortable for that to go to design? So this is final design or design for approval in the Streets for People governance group tomorrow?
This is designed for approval at the.
Now's the time. So board members comfortable?
Yeah.
The car park on the eastern side, at the moment, that's sort of just a reserve, isn't it? People park there anyway. Are you going to be are you going into the paddock?
There's already a consent, or you can answer for that.
Yeah, there's a project. So you would have seen lately that the footpath's been built along the drain and the toilets have been put in. So as there's some money in the council budget for next year for a car park going sort of along here.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, okay.
And so that's going to create some more car parks, and that's what this entrance here is for. So,
how many car parks? Sorry,
I don't know actually.
Look, any form of car parks is going to help. Yeah.
And I sort of looked at the car parks that are under these parts that we're doing here, and there's no actual usable car parks that we're getting rid of as part of this work. So, so there's no.
So for one question, Dan, it's probably not up on those. Where is the bike and the cycleway coming from? What side of the street?
This side of the street. Yeah.
And is that critical to this sign off? So has the communication been had with those business owners on that side of the street yet?
So the sign off tomorrow is only for the crossing. There will be a later design done and sign off sought for the cycleway which runs up Old Wharf Road to High Street, which there's a lot of businesses.
Is there some risk in that? Because there's a substantial truck movement on that side. Is there a risk to this project cementing and design without the arterial route through?
There is some risk that Old Wharf Road wouldn't be approved, definitely. This stands alone. This stands up by itself as something we would still want to see Great merit in doing.
It would still feedback from the skate park users and the inlet trail.
Yes.
That would still be a safe crossing too.
So it also, this is quite a great north-south cycleway, the existing off-road cycle paths. With this being the weak link at the moment with no safe crossing point, it's a really
It's definitely, there's a risk.
So it really strengthens that north-south. All right, well, let's have a look at the next one. This is Manoy Street, Manoy, which is off Whakarewa Street, and then the rugby ground, and then that is in it, the existing gravel path, which I think you guys put in or were responsible for, which goes through to the other side, which is Talbot Street, and gets you access to Parr Street. So we're simply, so this is sort of an informal gravel car park at the moment, which we're essentially sort of leaving as is. Manoy Street stays as is. We'd put a couple of these symbols on the road to indicate that it's a sort of a shared road, shared zone, cyclists and pedestrians, and that's appropriate for low speed, low volume roads. And we'd do a similar treatment at the other end, which is the next slide here, Emma. For Talbot Street. We actually stopped the path here because this is sort of going through non-council land, I think. So we're just leaving the existing infrastructure as it is. But you do come out on Talbot Street, which again we're leaving alone in this phase. As a project team, we actually feel that both Minoy and Talbot should, in the medium term, have an on-road cycle lane. But with the car park design, a car park demand as it is on those two streets, and our program being so fast moving, we're not going to be addressing that in this project.
Member and then Armstrong.
Thank you. So in the earlier discussions, when you get to the end of Talbot Street and it links to Parr Street, there was an idea of having, sorry, when you said that you were leaving Talbot Street alone, but when it joins into Parr Street, we're still looking at the.
We're still doing that.
I've
got that coming.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Board Member Armstrong.
The width of the path, please.
3.5. What we have been talking with Barry a little bit about this, and so we're just working a little bit on the drainage solution along this end. We obviously can't be having any flooding on the path that might go through to the adjacent properties, and we don't want flooding on the grass either. And then the other thing to consider in that equation is that with people parking on this grass on weekends, or we don't want them parking on the cycle path. So we sort of want some separation there as well. But we don't want to create an alleyway either. So it might be a curb and channel or something like that in there. So that's sort of yet to be finalised.
Any question? No.
All right, so the next one. So these next designs are preliminary designs, so they're not quite as far progressed. But I'll just go through them anyway. So if we look at High Street, we've looked in relative detail at two options. One option was a two-way cycle path on the western side of the road here. So trying to retain some parking, sorry, that's not this option, but trying to retain some parking on this side of the road. That option's not supported by Waka Kotahi, we've been told, for safety reasons. And that's consistent with actually what the independent safety engineers that we've employed have told us as well. So essentially it leaves us with one option on the table, which is a single one-way cycle lane on each side of the road, taking away all car parks, but by far the safest option.
There is that section.
There is a section.
Yeah.
So this is right at the south end of town. So the roundabout's about here somewhere.
Yeah, no, I see there's the backpackers and it's me. It's like a and there.
So I haven't included all of the drawings all the way down, but we've got this this image of what it would look like, which urban designers have done for us. So this is taken at the Mott South crossing. And yeah, so traffic lane, separators, cycle lanes, and then berm and footpath on either side of the road. So that's reasonably similar most of the way down the alignment. Once we get north of Monaghan, we are needing to rebuild curb and channel to get a bit more width. And yeah, some of the things that we'll be bringing to the governance panel tomorrow is, yeah, we were trying to retain car parks, particularly to those businesses that are on the corner or between Old Wharf and Monaghan, on the eastern side of the street. But with this option, those car parks would be taken away.
So in terms of the preliminary, these come back to the board. So will the board have another option to have more information on these, or is this the ones that's coming in terms of the timeline?
Well, we can do anything, but no.
Whoa, hang on, Dan.
I mean, the intention is to I suppose present this preliminary design kind of as a concept, if you like, and then only if there was a change during design development that was fundamentally different to that concept, would we come back and show you guys, assuming you're happy with the concept.
I'm not sure. I actually have no idea if we're happy or not.
No.
Board member.
So we had a meeting about this how long ago?
Months ago.
Oh, wasn't that long?
Yeah, and I've got some of that feedback if you'd like to work through some of the questions that you had, which were around the car parking and people reversing out the ability. So what properties had car parking on there contained within their section in the business, the number between that span of high street, and also their ability to be able to turn other properties so that they could front outwards. And we've just finished, as of yesterday, the door-to-door knocking of that entire portion as well. So there's some really interesting feedback from existing residents there.
Have you got a summary or a taste of that feedback? Is that from the High Street section?
Let's talk about
High
that.
Street
The
section.
High Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we surveyed 182 properties on High Street, and that was both from aerial imagery as well as door-to-door knocking as well, from Wharf Road through to Whakarewa Street. And 95% of these, so 100% of them had parking within their contained section or business. 95% of those had more than two car parks, and that doesn't include garaging, just off-street parking contained within their section. 98% of those properties, so 178 of them, including the apartments, had the ability to turn cars within their section or within their business to allow them to come front ways out.
Sorry.
Oh, we get this.
Okay.
Let's get the feedback this up.
And interestingly enough, people who were already reversing onto it found the parking of the cars either over the footpath or in the existing car parking problematic from a safety point of view as well, because they couldn't see as they were backing up. So there were safety concerns raised, not about the crossing points as well, not just from children and school children at school times, but also there seemed to be a high proportion of people who were legally blind or had visibility issues on residents on High Street needing to cross. And so there were real concerns that at the existing crossings that were there, cars were not stopping and they couldn't cross safely. They found the same with parking on the curb and with the cars, because cars often park over the edge of the curb because of the width of the road. So they found that also quite dangerous. Generally speaking, residents found that driving out onto the busy High Street and not seeing bikes on the footpath particularly problematic, and that the feedback was that the footpaths weren't suitable for mobility scooters, again, of which there was a relatively high proportion because of the uneven surfaces.
Remember.
Hi. Just a quick question. When you say, so there was a survey done with some door knocking, contacting the actual people, and some aerial. So what's the proportion?
So aerially, we looked at every property and we've door knocked on every single property.
So you have door knocked on all of them?
Yeah, so we're waiting. I think there's 4 businesses which have arranged to have further consultation but haven't feedback. So residents have all had that opportunity for the ones that were home during the times that across the days that we did. And everybody else has been, or should be by the end of the week, have had the ability to fill out the online survey by letterbox drop as well.
We just said in public forum, is there an ability to feed that back through the office if there's no one-line opportunity? Because I take it you've left a call card or something in terms of we've been
The letterbox drop is the follow-up to the knocking on the door.
And was there any concern about the loss of car parking?
It was certainly mentioned, but it wasn't mentioned with as high frequency as we thought, because most people, well, I would say generally in a population level in New Zealand, the removal of car parking is not popular. There was certainly more pressing priority safety concerns for these people, particularly with the elderly and the differently abled, around the complexity and busyness of that road as it was. So, I mean, I have to.
Well, there was quite a bit of concern, wasn't there, actually, about the safety of
The
parking
existing road, yeah.
on the existing road.
So a lot of, and I think if we look at our car parking analysis as well, there isn't actually a lot of car parking on that road in those car parks because of the safety issue. Yeah.
Any other questions on High Street then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Deputy Chair Graham.
Oh, so I guess for me, it'd be interesting to know what like the survey questions to lead to some of those answers, like if they realised the outcome would be.
I can run.
The other thing you mentioned, there was a high portion of people who were sight impaired along High Street. I know one person, but what was the percentage?
So last time they looked, there were 4 residences
along High Street.
There's a cursory glance between all of them. Yeah. Within this section of High Street. And there was mention of another one, but nobody was at home while we were there. I can quickly read through the questions if you'd like.
Yeah, just get the flavour. Yeah.
Sure. So when using your street, whichever street we're on, because we're committed to doing this to every street, do you and the people in your household travel? And you can select as many options as you like. On foot, on scooter or skateboard, bicycle, by e-bike, private vehicle, commercial vehicle, by mobility device or other. Do you or anyone in the household have any safety concerns, have any unsafe experiences on this road? There's a selection, which is bikes on footpath, car doors opening on cyclists, unsafe speed of cars, unsafe speed of trucks, closeness of heavy vehicles, unsafe crossing points, unclear or unsafe intersections, other or none. What would support you and members of your household to walk, cycle, scooter or mobility scooter more often? If it was necessary to create a safer street by removing car parks, how far from your home would you be prepared to walk? And the options are 100 metres, 200 metres, 500 metres, or a comment. Is there any other feedback you'd like to give us regarding walking, cycling and street safety in Motueka? And what's the best way for us to contact you with updates for the works on your street?
But the context has been set before you give the questions.
Yeah, so we talk about
they know
the
what it's
purpose
about.
of the project, so we know it's got a walking and cycling strategy. So
sorry. Just when you mentioned about NZTO or Kotahi mentioning, so did you say they said that it would be unsafe if we just had one cycle lane, which the community board was sort of favouring towards rather than getting rid of parks on both sides? Is that what you?
That's right. Yeah.
And given it's a state highway, why do we want to try and promote cycling on a state highway? Like when we've got those other options joining.
Yeah. I suppose because it's such a, it's such a strong north-south arterial route, and cyclists are on there anyway. We've been out making observations, and it is used by cyclists. It's not very safe, so people go that way anyway. As a cyclist myself, I will go round on the off-road trails if I've got time, but if I don't, if I'm in a hurry, I'll just go down High Street. And I think that's, we want this facility to be usable. And I think the way that we need to do that is by having, it's for locals and it's for commuters. It's not for tourists. So a direct and efficient route makes a lot of sense.
There was some feedback too that while there were some cycle trails that we could connect on the west side, got that right, that there was limited developed trails on the east side at the moment, connecting the schools across High Street.
Yes, that was going to be my next question, is where are they commuting to if we're doing it all the way from Toad Hall roundabout all the way up to town? Is it just people that live in that area that work up here? It's not connecting them to bike along the highway?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it's the Mott South School is part of it. So getting people from, from either neighbourhood at either end to Mott South School. It's connecting the southern and the sort of central neighbourhoods and businesses.
As well as Peter Chanel School and is it the Upper Mootry further down past Total?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
Focus on the schools.
I think that was the initial purpose of it, but from the feedback from the community, it does genuinely concern me that we have people feeling on High Street that it is not safe to even walk up there. So while I guess this feels like a focus on cycling, it's actually removing cyclists off our footpaths as well, creating a safer place on the walkways for mobility scooters and walkers. So by separating out all the users, that in itself creates a safe environment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
Yeah.
But actually is for not just cyclists. While it feels like it's a cycle thing, it creates an environment supportive for the users.
I get the mode shift. I'm really surprised that there wasn't more pushback around the car parking. But I guess if you've consulted and done that, should we move on to the next one? We're going to be here.
Yeah, that's right.
You will be anyway.
Yeah.
This one might be a bit more straightforward. So yeah, this is up at the entry roundabout again at the south end of town, and so looking at a raised crossing at this point, which provides a safe crossing point for walkers and cyclists coming this way who want to continue down the Great Taste Trail, that's probably the main purpose.
One question, but then have we learned the lessons of the last roundabout and where that's placed in terms of roundabout?
Yeah, that question's come up a lot. So at the moment, it is positioned far enough away or as far away from the roundabout as we can for sight lines, etc. So I think it's 15 metres. Interestingly enough, Motueka, and gave some feedback that they actually want it as close to the roundabout as possible. We've got a meeting on Thursday to go through their feedback.
With your table of experts, we don't want this one changed in 6 months' time as well.
Yeah, no,
and I guess it's learned from the previous ones.
Yeah. They should be learning from the room.
That's coming through now. Clear. Not going to have
views.
Look, I'm sorry, I hate pedestrian crossings. My personal opinion, I'm allowed them, but the diamond rather, was after when I sat my test, after the diamond, the car had the right of way. So if that's clearly not going to happen there, so you're going to have people going across that roundabout, they're just going to drive out across, and then suddenly you're going to have people flying around the roundabout and suddenly having to stop. It's not going to work.
Understand from the diamond is that's not the case.
It's changed now, but I know it's changed, but you know what I mean, that now pedestrian crossings are basically a footpath. People just walk out. So that's going to happen there. And that close to a roundabout, you're bound to have problems. It's a no-brainer.
But this is raised, so it's also effectively a speed hump. So cars can't really go any more than 30 kilometres.
I think for this one, because we're going to get there, is as long as the concerns noted from the board in terms of our concern about the closeness to that, based on past history, the other roundabout, and then the government's group will get that feedback.
Yeah, that's good on.
Let's just note that we have real concern because I don't have to wear glasses to drive, but I should. I don't. It's not a requirement of my license, but on a rainy day with lights, those roundabouts are so busy. I need to put these on. Yet the law says I can drive without them. And that's the busy, tight places in all weather is a recipe for disaster.
What is
So if
the
you run into Beryl, it's not your fault.
Exactly, because, and I didn't see the try. But let's just note that we have concerns in terms of what history tells us 15 metres is problematic.
Yeah.
And the working group.
So the one final point on that to note is that because of the most of the movements around here are actually north to south. If a truck and trailer unit comes along here every now and again, reasonably often, and is actually going into the roundabout, it's not going to cause much of a hold up because most of the movement is coming from the state highway going right through, rather than coming in off these side roads, which obviously does happen, but it's not.
There's some really bad roading around that corner that suggests there's quite a lot of heavy trucks that use that road. Around the Quail Street and Wildman Road. But yeah, just don't note the
going south,
going west.
east, yeah.
Right, next into the Tudor Street. So Tudor Street cycle path. Which we had a separate session with the community board. Not everyone was there, but we'd looked at a couple of options for Tudor Street, a couple of on-road options, which obviously removed car parking. And then there's the very wide berm, which is on the northern side of Tudor Street, which is the option that was preferred by the community board in that session we had. So in order to create that, we retain car parks on the road, but we do need to take out some of the trees. But so our urban designers in doing the concept design have been through and looked at each of the trees and where they are, the better, well, we've retained as many trees as we can, and we're actually doing curb build outs in some areas, like in front of Tudor House there and a couple of other areas. So we're building out the curb and retaining some trees where we can. And I think there's about 5 that would come down and be replanted.
15 of them. So the residents feedback in the street.
Yeah.
So we've begun that. We haven't finished it, and so we started on the north side, and the residents on that side again. We looked at car parking within the section before we, looked at whether we were taking it out or not. But they were well catered for. Probably less so on the south side. And feedback to on the trees was that accepting that some may need to be removed, preferences that they are replanted, and acknowledging that some of those trees have a pretty short life expectancy in the sense that they're interfering with power lines, or they will be quite shortly. And again, mobility scooters users were having problems with the footpath, which was being raised because of the roots of it. So I wouldn't say resoundingly supportive of taking down the trees, but I would say certainly from the feedback that we've had so far, accepting that providing they're replanted.
Happy with design? Or the concept?
Actually, we're quite enthusiastic about it, but I have to put the caveat that we've only done, the north side of it, and it's certainly not the total feedback yet. Yeah. Also, again, residents raised quite a few safety concerns around the speed of traffic down that street, as well as children and cyclists, adult cyclists on the footpath as well. So people were concerned about coming out, I suppose.
Awesome. You keep going.
Yeah. So it's just these are the plans. So we want to run through these, but so well, might as well quickly. So starting at this end where we are now, there's a parking bay inset here which we retain, and then at Goodman Ledger House is here. We're actually going to build out the curb here to create a bit more space, so there will be no parking up on this section. And if we go to the next one, that continues through to Goodman Drive, where we tuck back in here and then carry on east where, yeah, there is parking again. Then there are some trees here that we needed to pop back out again onto the roads. There's a sort of a 35-metre section of no parking along here, and then come back in and carry on east on the berm. I mean, it will all appear to be on the berm, but it's just that the curb will pop out in a couple of spots. Yeah.
So are those crossings,
Yeah, just flat.
pointed line crossings?
Yeah, with a bit of thought going into the landing pads at each end, to make those safe, and you'll see that it's sort of set back a little bit from the actual intersection, which is much better for visibility. Then this next slide is this is the Tudor Thorpe Harbour intersection. So, you know, our cycle lane we just talked about is coming down here. And so we are proposing a couple of raised crossings here and here. The secondary purpose of this one is actually to slow speed a wee bit on Thorpe Street, which should be good. So safe crossing points here for the cyclists, and then, you know, we continue down Harbour Road here. That's you know, that you get down to the existing trails on the waterfront. So it's also providing, it's not only a safe crossing point here, but this crossing would be raised. So the average speed for those who are interested on Harbour Road is 37 kilometres an hour, which is slightly above where we would want it to be if this was to be a shared space for cyclists and traffic. So the speeding feature should take care of that, and then we're not really proposing to alter too much down Harbour Road. We've also thought, this was Barry that raised this, we've thought about this, you know, there are a number of trucks that do use Tudor Street, Mitre 10 and foodstuffs or New World deliveries. So we just made sure that these curb build outs here, which are done to sort of bring to shrink the intersection, if you like, so it's not such a large crossing, are done in a way where trucks can still get around and up that road, which is possible. This is a truck and trailer unit, which will be the biggest one. So.
Maybe an H.
And this is this is the one we're talking about. So this is getting to the end of Talbot Street here. This proposing to raise this crossing up. So you'd have a 100 mil ramp here, and then a 100 mil ramp going down here and another one here. So you're basically raising the whole intersection up by 100 mil. So it becomes sort of a bit of a speed hump, and providing some safe crossing points here and here.
It's tiny. Yeah. So 100 mil, what size is that in relation to the raised crossings on the state highway by the clock tower? 100 doesn't sound very large. So is it about the same? Because the idea is to slow traffic down, because that is as you know, it's a truck bypass now.
Yeah, that's right.
Having cyclists on either side of the road is a real concern.
Certainly the school had real concerns about the truck speed usage as well, and particularly that there was only one crossing available to the children further up the road, which is in itself quite complicated with the countdown. Is it countdown on the corner, the supermarket on the corner? Yeah, and the visibility of that with parked cars by it. When we looked at where the students were going after school by walking and cycling, they were crossing over to the park to then use the paths behind it to go into the northern west.
Which is everywhere.
The existing crossing, which is up here where
Yes.
this is be a future design, but part of this project. But we want to make a raised platform out of that as well.
Yes.
You know, similar to by Old Wharf Road. So that would also be a slowing feature around the school in particular. So yeah, so a couple of quite good traffic calming features on Parr Street.
Sorry, but the public can watch, but they can't participate, Jude. But yeah, Parr is with an H, but it's okay.
Should be with no way.
I don't know what, yeah, that must have been the slip of the mind for a minute. Yeah, so
I'm not sure the street.
PAH, yeah, right. Where are that?
Moving on.
Now, so this sort of feeds into Parr Street. So Greenwood is a busy little area, as you all know. We've got a couple of concept designs for a cycle path on Greenwood. So again, looking at this traffic calming feature on the corner of Wilkinson and Greenwood. So this is sort of, we're not doing anything down this way. So looking at a raised intersection here with a couple of safe crossing points, and then a two-way cycleway on the northern side of the street, heading all the way down to the existing lights, and then making the most of the current setup that's there. So not really proposing too many changes to the lights. So the idea is that you'd ride down here and then get off your bike or go very slowly around to the pedestrian crossing and go across and then head on down. And when we were, I've spent a good few hours on site sort of observing how that all works, and it actually works surprisingly well. There's quite a wide footpath down here, and cyclists do actually use it all the time. And the ones I saw were going pretty slow and sharing quite nicely with the pedestrians.
The next slide is where the kindergarten is.
So this would obviously take out some parking on the northern side of the street, which is biggie. But yeah, retain parking on this side. Yeah, and we sort of saw this as quite a crucial, remembering that one of the big objectives of this project is to provide the links to the schools and give parents the confidence that there's a safe route to send their children off to bike to school. And initially we were sort of like, well, could we do nothing here and just make it a shared facility, like what I showed you on Harbour Road, but that's not going to inspire any confidence in any parents, and it's not appropriate for a road that's this busy and this fast. So yeah, proposing a separated cycleway on that side of the street, running up and then not altering the lights too much. And then the plan would be heading further down. The plan would be to stay on the site on the footpath as a shared path until about where you get to the existing crossing, and then pop back onto the road at that point and continue heading east.
So further east, where you've got the past Wilkinson Street and you've got the kindergarten.
Yeah.
Is there still going to be parking on the south side?
So it's down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing
You're not touching any of that. Okay.
So this is sort of an option too for here, and that's coming down this side of the street, which sort of feels a little bit less busy around this area. So that's sort of why we looked at this option. But there's a real pinch point when you get to the lights here. There's it's there's not much room on the existing footpath at all. Not very good visibility. There's a There's that laneway about here, I think. There's a transformer on the footpath that really squeezes things up. So it's quite problematic. So sort of the only way to make this one work is to actually build out the footpath here, make it a lot wider. And then when you get to this point, you make that a shared path. But what that would do is it would actually take out one of the turning lanes at the lights. So you just have one lane on the approach to the lights, which is possible, but it means you're going to need to change the phasing of the lights. And also you would actually need to move the poles themselves and the hardware themselves. So I'm not very keen on this option for that reason, and I'm not sure what Motueka would be either. It's sort of an option too, but not looking very good.
Being a local and coming down Greenwood Street and wanting to go right or straight on, the way the traffic lights are timed, there's about 3 cars that are let through at any one time before they're on red again. So if there's only one lane for left, right and straight on, you'll be waiting a month of Sundays to get over.
Yeah, and the other side of that is you would actually need more time on the lights to clear the side streets. So that would
then you can have a backlog on.
exactly. So that's why I say I don't think Motueka will like it.
So in terms of your perspective, Claire, you're supporting on northern side of the road, so up the top.
Well, I just
So option one, I guess.
well, not extending that path at the edge.
Yeah, where's the board in terms of the one is the preference?
Not happy at all.
Speak now.
The message is clear that we need to get out of our cars. That's the message here. And I suppose I've got to get my head around that. If you can, so I said to you, if you can get me out of my car and onto a bike, it is obviously with the government involved. That's really what this is about, and we're trying to make this work. I keep coming back to, well, if the government wants to give us a heap of money, why didn't they give us a heap of money to make a bypass and get all these trucks and everything off the high street? And then, hey, it'll be a hell of a lot easier. But it's like we're trying to make the best of a bad situation here. And
I think I would add to that the funding comes from the Climate Emergency Relief Fund. So while it is encouraging people for active transit, the primary purpose of it is to reduce.
You're right, Nate, to get us out of our cars.
yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the fund.
I'll have much arguments with myself, but yeah, it's a matter of no choice. Really, we're just going to make the best of, and that's where your expertise is coming in. So I am most impressed with, by the way, how you're doing this.
Yeah, okay. So we do welcome feedback.
Yeah,
you know, all sorts of feedback.
I want to echo Claire's concern is that we don't want to lose a turning lane at that instant.
yeah.
So if the only way that can be done is option one, then from feedback from the board, if that's how they feel, I think we should absolutely say we want one because we don't want to lose that. We've just opened that bottleneck to go back again.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty unanimous.
Probably not have anything along the street, but that's not option 3.
Yeah. So looking at option 3.
What's your feedback, Tony?
Yeah, totally agree with Claire and Brent. You cannot take away the turning lane. I too have concerns with the amount of pressure that's being put on to change roading into cycleways everywhere. I think going to create another issue in the future that we haven't foreseen. So just rolling with it at the moment.
In terms of the alternate ways the traffic will travel, or just the pressure it's putting on the community?
Yeah, a few issues, but not for this forum.
I probably share the mode shifts probably coming, but I'm not sure if the time's right, but there's not a choice in this project. Either it's done or it's not done, is it? Key feedback, is that what we've talked about already? I'm mindful of time.
We've covered most of this. Program update, super quick. So governance panel meeting tomorrow, as I've said. There's the visioning and optioning process for the town centre in Timatu, which I mentioned in the last meeting. So we're sort of planning on kicking that off in July. So remember, we're not doing any physical work in those spaces in this project, but we want to come up with a couple of options for when we hopefully get more money to do the next phase. Tenders are looking to go out in mid-May to contractors and hopefully to commence construction in late July. So very brief program.
The tender time on that sort of takes back that we can make community. So the feedback you've got from the board, what have you captured? And then an opportunity for board members to add into that feedback to go to the governance group tomorrow. What have
The pressure's on.
yeah. We'll start with the easy one. That was around, I guess, out of all of it, as you look at it, have you looked at the unintended consequences? So what we saw with High Street development made Park Street a main highway. So I'm really keen that from the residents' feedback you've got, and this is that the unintended consequences are high in that talk. And I don't want to walk down the street and bump into somebody that's in Greenwood Street going, we didn't know anything about this. So we're placing a whole lot of, I guess the decision is placing a whole lot of emphasis on that consultation has been robust. And
So I need to be really clear about consultation versus feedback though, because what we're asking for from residents, particularly around areas where there aren't a lot of options, is feedback on that to inform design, which isn't consultation. So consultation would indicate that there was carte blanche to change and modify that in a really drastic way, which is why we're looking at full consultation for the town centre in Timatu, which is a blank slate. Look, let's just gather everything that you could possibly want within that space and we design it.
expect surprises from residents in the affected streets when they see the end design.
I hope it's not. So the plan.
It's not too.
Can I guarantee it? No. So what we have committed to is that every door will be knocked on, and that everyone will also receive something in their letterbox, and that there will be ongoing wider communication to the community around that. And for everybody that supplies us with their details, we will have progress reports to the manner that they've asked us to supply them. So either text, email, or letterbox drop. I can't hand on heart say that everybody will be happy with that.
It's just we endeavour and remember, one of the comments today was about technology isn't everybody's means of communication.
Absolutely.
Design, Guardian, letterbox drops. So, yeah. What have you got from us? And then make sure that anything you want to express to the governance committee, that's expressed.
You want to go through the plans and I can give the feedback over.
I think just what we've taken notes of. So I think the first one was around while you're looking, Amy, the first one was around checking the western entry exit of the rec centre and just the sight lines there.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, is there any future, anything looked at for future? Because I'm just conscious of potential congestion there. If you've only got one exit, is there any future plans with creating two exits? That's also something to know.
Is that like a coded message about the pool?
No, it's probably, it's just say no.
I'm not the person to ask.
Because netball season and you come out of there on a Saturday or whatever's happening at the rec centre, one exit, it's not gonna.
I think the answer to that without putting you on the spot is there's possibly been conversations, but there is no plan at this stage.
I think that, well, let me say, I think we'd need to carefully direct people in new ways if we're going to change that area, because old habits die hard. And so if we're directing people to change habits of 20 years, we need to be really specific about how that's signed and used.
Sports people, they're going to walk or bike.
No. Not when you're carting 7 kids around.
Sorry, so what are the feedback?
We had, oh, sorry. Yep, you go.
I was going to skip to this point on Greenwood. Definitely don't want to take away that turning lane.
Yep, so for Old Wharf Road, just to go back over, we've got, entry to the new car park. We did consider that in the design, and there are 38 car parks associated with that new consented area in the Goodman Reserve as well. Just flip that back up. Serena, check the visibility views. Check from the west, turning left or right. Are they up to spec, and is the size of it up to spec as well? And Brent, you talked about the pressure points on that road during the peak times. And how do we consider that and changing that entry? Yeah.
There was the distance of the crossing at Wharf Road or the High Street crossing on Wharf Road, just making sure that we're not too close to the crossing.
Lovely.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, concerns about the closeness of the 15 metres. Brent put out that there were actually quite a lot of trucks using that roundabout. Off down Quail. Tudor Street, there was a question about the residents' feedback. And I just did a caveat that we've only started that. Generally supportive, safety concerns. But yeah, raised questions about the Greenwood kindergarten. Would the car parks be retained? Ian said they would be. And yeah, quite a lot of notes around the not wanting to lose the ability, not wanting to lose that lane from the right turning or going straight ahead at Greenwood as well. And I've just noted too that for the rest of the project team, press feedback that there is a feeling of pressure to make these decisions around things that.
And if you get board members and myself on out of our cars and our bikes, you may find. But I guess from the board, thank you, because whilst we may push the pressure on you, I absolutely know that you've got a project team and got pressure of timelines and deadlines. And the fact that you're actually walking the streets and knocking on doors, I absolutely commend you. I think that's absolutely awesome in the time frame we've got. So whilst we may be frustrated with timelines, I know it's not your doing. So thank you for your work. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's great. So just final comment is, so from the designs you've seen, is there a generally supportive feeling or?
Because there's so many.
I still think the mode's just too early, but I'm happy to be proven wrong across different areas of the district. But that's why there's a governance group of that will work and approve that, because any mode shift has got to happen at some stage.
The real tension is that we talked about on the phone the other day, which is being bold in your decisions, knowing that in 5 and 10 years, the uptake's going to be, the infrastructure is going to be there for people to use it versus compromising with the community's use of it now. And there is probably going to be that tension. Late, I'm not deciding.
Remember, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say that I'm very supportive of what you're doing. And what the thing.
Thank you. Oh,
You have had the pleasure of two of us, Trinity and myself, being on the governance panel. Unfortunately, Trinity's in Australia at a brother's funeral, so I'll be flying the flag by myself tomorrow.
I feel the weight on your shoulders, Councillor Dowler. Thank you. And just note for the agenda, Mr. Kirby, if we're getting one of these, we need to allow at least now. Thank you both. Yeah. I think we've got crowd welcome. So in terms of your agenda pack, because that was just a presentation, we don't really think about it. Going to page 9. I'm going to take the report as read and see if this one can be one of those items that perhaps doesn't take too long, but we just fixed it. Okay. I start with a question. And the question is the resource to write this policy, is it there and how long does it take? And is the alternative in the board tree by tree just go, now our expectation, we're going to approve removal of the tree, be really prepared that we're going to ask you to plant 3? Or do we need a policy? And I guess your guidance, I'm just, when I look at the scheme of things, is this good use of staff resource? And I probably asked for this, I think.
Chairman, can I say that you did ask?
I know I did ask for this thing. Because it was.
You did make the point that you could actually have it as an unwritten request.
It wasn't.
The trees cut down, we put.
Anyway, we'll go with it. We'll go with a grant and burial. Welcome.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora, Chair Murray, congratulations on that, and kia ora, David Motueka. We all work in that space and carrying on and staying as a community board member. Thank you for that work you've done. Yes, I was asked to talk to you tonight about this, and yes, the simplest thing would be is that we have a side agreement with the board that if, when you approve a tree removal, there's an agreement of what will go back. But what we're asking for is not a blanket policy that 3 trees go back of similar species in the same reserve close to, that there's some discretion for staff to say, we're going to plant a tree back there, because generally we do. There's usually a really good reason why we don't. We would like to have some discretion on the species, because if you're doing like for like or similar, a lot of the species that we have in our reserve, we've inherited and they're not really that appropriate. They're too big, there's power lines, the leaves are large, they shed, they're too close to the houses. We need smaller trees or, so we'd just like some discussion on that. If it is going to be 3 trees, maybe 1 where it came from and 2 somewhere else. So some discussion on the location as well. So maybe that when the report's written for the tree removal, there's discussion about what will be replaced and where it could be replaced and what with. As you can see, you have the delegation to have the report for tree removal, but not one for replanting. The other suggestion could be that we take a wee step back and do a tree policy for the whole district rather than just having some side agreements with community boards. But that is that's a bigger picture thing. Yeah.
I guess with Mr. Kirby's help, because one's easy to move, we can receive this report. How do we step into in terms of, I don't know, the board foreshadows that for future tree requests, it is likely a request of 3 trees be planted in areas to increase amenity value somewhere in the Motueka township.
That's right.
But I don't know if I can go that far in a scope without a report. And if will that satisfy them? Because where we've been for 6 years is he said, she said, this is how many we replaced with, and we found that we didn't have anything.
Well, I guess the resolution could be that, that when the report is written for a tree removal, the board discusses and includes in that report a discussion on the replacement of those trees and where they'll be and what species they'll be. It's in that report.
Let's see, sorry.
No, you can.
I wasn't sure where we got 3 trees from anyway.
Pick it out of the sky. To be fair with this, because it ranged from 1 to 5, I think.
Right, so I couldn't get my head around why that was in there, sorry. But that sounds like a really feasible way forward.
I same comment 3 from memory, and I've been lots of board meetings over many years. 3 was always a fairly arbitrary figure, just to try and boost the number of trees, but that was before council were planting a lot of trees anyhow. When I looked through the options that in the report, the options there, option 1 and 2, there was no option 3 of just replacing 1 tree with another tree. And even discretion as to whether, as you said, the tree that has been replaced was the wrong tree in the wrong place. Even it might be the wrong species in the wrong place as well. So to say even go for a similar species is being too prescriptive in the rule. When there are times when it may be appropriate, and then we get into a whole debate about, but the rule says such and such. No. So I've always been, or in recent years, been content with the current approach, which is outlined in the introduction. I'm in favour of having amenity tree policy. I don't know what amenity is actually just defined as.
Well, I just
trees in the street.
Find an amenity tree as a tree rather than some shrubs or revegetation plantings and things like that. That's an actual tree that, like a street tree or a proper tree in a reserve, as opposed to a planting of shrubs. Yeah.
I guess I added on that it added value to the point and place. I mean, board member Hart.
From my recollection as well, from being on the board previously, is what the I guess the concern was is when there was trees taken away, we were told sort of generically that TDC plant hundreds of trees, every month, which is right. So our concern was that we wanted to discuss the trees being replaced around that vicinity that the tree was taken from. That was really what we were trying to cover. So having that as
part of the report.
Yeah.
So included in the report for the tree removal is a discussion on the tree replacement and the number of trees that we were given 3. That when I've looked at a lot of the tree policies for a lot of other councils, there's no mention of a number. Only one just mentioned they would replace every one removed with 2. That was the only one I found. Yeah.
So we're happy with that. We're happy to receive the report and just feedback that we won't ask staff to write a tree amenity report, but
I have just modified a recommendation you can consider. And it takes away the need for a policy, which makes it easy.
right.
I'm sure our legal people will be happy about that too, because we have to go back to council to sign off a policy, so, which is a normal process. So if you can flick that up, what I've amended is number 2. Basically say the Queen's Council staff to consider for every amenity removed
In the Motueka district.
moved and Motueka to be replaced by planting 3 new trees of a similar species close to it in the reserve a tree is removed from. Now you can modify the wording if you don't want to have 3 in there.
I don't think it's similar species. I don't necessarily think we need the similar
No.
species.
Okay.
Take Beryl's point. Motueka district is placed by.
And I don't think we need 3.
Just planting new
Yeah.
trees.
Why we're planning.
At least one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Again, it's if there's
Five
room
of-
for 3, there might be a space issue.
We can say at least 1. And then, we
And
can,
then it
we
opens it
understand
up.
what you're saying, and obviously, our team are pretty keen on planting trees as well, so.
Okay, so what about placing of a tree in brackets trees? New trees.
I think
Follow
at least
close. If I mean, yeah,
it's condensed.
yeah. A new tree.
New, won't plant an old tree. Or is there?
Just testing the board's flavour, but I'm happy within the Motueka district.
Yeah,
I don't, it doesn't, because it might not make sense close to the word removed, but we're not talking about the environmental benefits, we're talking about adding amenity and value to place.
The aesthetic look.
But we'll have an environmental one as well, but.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is that okay?
Yes, I think that, and I think what we can do is request that I talk to the staff member when they do the report for the tree removal. It's included in that report.
Okay, so just tree within the Motueka district. So,
Instead of close,
Yeah.
just within,
What's in the reserve? Is that what
a tree within the Motueka.
within the Motueka board, sorry, I better put what it is,
You want to say more wood?
within the Motueka board.
No.
It's just in the Motueka district.
That's our, sure, that's
Yeah,
our,
yeah, yeah.
It'd be Motueka.
oh, sorry, planting at least one new tree
Not of a close.
On or in, or
within the
Yeah, so
Motueka.
get rid of close
with a close.
and all of the removed from.
If you come back to of, yeah, delete all of that, at
Full stop after tree.
least one new tree. Within Motueka board.
So she's got tree removed within the Motueka ward, but it's replaced by planting at
Oh,
least one new tree.
Yeah, yes, right.
Yep, they get in that.
Yeah.
So we could probably just use that at the end instead.
Remember.
Then we'll be happy.
When I brought this up in the very beginning, when I heard about that tree being cut down, I started jumping up and down.
That tree.
Which one was that?
No, in the very beginning, when this came about, because they were talking about having to cut down a tree because it was unhealthy and they were going to try and save it. And I said, well, we should be planting a new tree.
Talking about Harbour Street, Harbour Road.
Oh, well, I can't remember now. It was what started it off in one of these meetings, that there was a tree that was unhealthy and it was going to be cut down, but I'm really that. This is a good thing. I've been part of a good thing here.
Are you happy to move this? Are you happy to move this?
I'm more than happy to move this.
Okay, I'll second and there's still discussion, yeah?
Sorry, I'm just still not quite happy with the wording.
Oh,
What I would like to add is where it says for every tree removed within the Motueka ward, it is replaced by planting at least one new tree in or near the vicinity. It's no good taking a tree
Yes.
down in.
Next to in the vicinity of where it-
Plant another one in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we do need to be clear.
Close to or in the vicinity of where it was.
Yes. Thank you.
Are you happy with that amendment, board member Hughes? So maybe, actually, does somebody else want to second that? Yeah.
So something that's been around with the trees for a while.
So within the.
So what the resolution is in front of you,
Yes.
Here we go. Yes, Bill.
Surely this-
tree approved, move, Hughes seconded, Hart, all those in favour, aye?
Aye.
Gary, thank you. And actually, whilst it might
Thank
seem
you.
minor, this has been a discussion around the.
So
board
no.
Probably 4 terms.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thanks for that one.
I had no idea that going.
Okay, we're going to
Thanks.
and Grant's going to stay with us, and I'm just recognising if I go to this, that Grant is presenting this in place of Mr. Chin. So we'll go to the report. We can take it as read.
Yep.
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 Page 15.
Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Gibby.
In light of the conversation in the public forum this morning, I would like perhaps to move this report from discussion until we talk to Nick Chin and get that clarified, I think, because I don't want to be in a position where we're passing something that we're.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy to remove it. Thank you. Yeah, well. Yeah, I thought we were going to say. Okay. If we go to 7 page 25, Board Member Armstrong, do you want to lead us through this one? Thank you for your work on this.
Well, I assume it's been read. Can we take it as read? What council have chosen to do, I think it sounds like a good way of doing it, rather than having two separate policies for Motueka and Golden Bay, is to have the commonalities of them both, which are, as far as I can see, pretty much what we had drafted, right, with board approved back at the start, most of that. And then the differences, I was at the Golden Bay meeting when they discussed their thing, and they changed 2 or 3 things in there, the amount, the quantum, the reporting back time, and the completion of the project, and it might be the third one, Grant. Anyhow,
It was only a few words.
yeah. So you know, to separate those out as separate, the only, and I've read through it carefully, and it does, I think, reflect what we had already approved ourselves. But one thing I did take from the meeting at Golden Bay, which I would actually, we're in the position where we can just make minor change, is minor change.
What to the actual fund criteria?
Where am I? This one here, 5.4, everything, the common parts, fine. Our 5.4 applicants should provide appropriate financial statements, e.g. a statement of financial position, balance sheet, and a statement of financial performance, profit and loss. That's pretty strict on some groups to go through the whole balance sheet thing. And what they come up with, and I thought they debated it for quite some time, didn't you? That was way too complicated for them. And I think their 6.4, which is equivalent to our 5.4, is much more appropriate for the type of fund that we're doing, which is applicants are to provide appropriate financial information, including a project budget and a summary of the overall financial position. I would very much like to have that changed and that go to council then, if that can be done at this meeting.
Yes.
The resolution.
Yeah, I think that's, you can make that change. I don't think there's a major.
So report writer happy?
What you do in your recommendation is you just say that amend 5.2 to read the same as for 6.4.
5.4.
Sorry, so that 5.4 will be the same as 6.4.
Correct. So that Motueka 5.4 will
be the same as the 6.4.
So on that basis, Board Member Armstrong, you happy to move?
Oh, yeah, very happy to move that.
Second. Member Hughes, any other discussion? Thank you for your work.
Board Member Grant, why did you guys drop from 1,000 to 500?
Because our budget isn't as big as yours. And we would run out of it a lot quicker.
Okay.
Half the amount the rating.
I just wondered if
So it's only so we can spread it out a little bit more.
Yeah. I just wondered if the people asking for it were asking for smaller amounts.
No.
1,000.
Okay, Armstrong, Hughes, all those in favour, aye? It's carried. Moves us to 7.5, and I'm going to be a little bit biased, but that's okay. So let's take the report as read. Board Member Armstrong, is there anything that you'd like to talk to specifically in
Just a couple of things just to mention there, but not the sort of debate that being in your hands now as the chair that's going to pick these things up. But 3.1, I do ask the question about whether the board wants to have a workshop or something about the annual plan submission, which that's something for you to sort through if you wish to or not.
I didn't realise our room suddenly got empty.
Yeah.
So it's with you, Mr. Kirby. I was looking for Elaine. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So yes, a workshop in terms of annual plan.
Yes.
That's one thing. Let me finish with things and come back.
We do them one by one.
Okay.
Do them one by one. So does the board want to workshop a submission for annual plan?
Yes.
And would a Tuesday at this time be the most suitable?
You mean 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
Oh, it could be 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. But Tuesday evening's okay?
Yeah, but I don't want to be selfish, but a bit late is better for me, but.
5:30?
No, five, I mean, I finish at 4:15. So
So 5 o'clock's okay?
5 o'clock, absolutely fine, but if it's difficult, I'll work around it. People.
Three councillors.
What is?
Would you be here for that, Brett?
That's what I was going to ask Elaine about.
I was going to say, sure.
Yes. Mr. Kirby, I was just looking around, didn't realise everybody had left. Just need to clarify at what point in terms of a submission it affects my seat at council. So the discussion to date says the view of the board is the view of the boards rather than the councillor sitting there. But I need to make sure in terms of that draft submission that it doesn't jeopardise.
On the pre-consultation?
This is annual plan consultation.
Oh, the annual plan consultation, right.
Normally in the past, councillors never attended them.
No, that's right.
But maybe if I leave that with you to fight with Democracy Services, to make sure that it doesn't compromise the outcome of that.
You not attending or you attending?
Me attending and then being very careful to represent the views of elected board members rather than the councillors and how that sits around the table for submission, or have we prep another board member to do that submission?
I think the standing orders would say the deputy chair does that.
I need to answer now, seek that advice. We can set a tentative date and time. So how does the second?
I'm thinking that one through. A submission is not a decision. It's just providing information.
But it bases a decision to be made.
It might be. But you're not involved in a decision here that's declaring your hand. So that's why I think you could still do it and be involved in.
And that's the temporary advice about, I just want to make sure that doesn't stink.
I'll check with it, see, but I suspect that's the case. If it's just a general submission from the board that you can be involved in that, because it's not a specific decision that you're making as councillors.
Yeah. Because we've broken a few traditions tonight. How's the 2nd of May? Tuesday, 2nd of May.
You missed the one.
Tuesday, the 2nd of May, 5 o'clock here.
Yeah, well, any day, really.
When
did the submissions close?
That's good.
Good question. I think it's probably beginning of end of April. Must be about a week's time. Yeah, I think you're right.
So we need to get on. That should be good.
May ain't going to work.
What yourself?
No one's answering, though. It's pretty cool, yeah.
Hours, what's another night, or is Monday the 24th at 5 o'clock?
Yes. That's next
Monday,
Monday.
24th.
Monday the 20th.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
5th of April.
Okay, so Monday the
Okay, cool.
Monday the 24th, 5 o'clock at the library. Hopefully the library's great, so it's booked. Have board members got the information they need in terms of what's in the current consultation for the annual plan? Perhaps Emma could send some packs out.
You had the public meeting here on Annual plan?
Not yet.
26.
You're talking pre-LTP rather than AP, aren't you?
That's it.
Pre-LTP, not L.
There's several annual plan discussions going on as well.
New to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is felt like 5 o'clock, Monday, the
24th.
24th. Yeah,
Okay,
Hours.
so we were going to do it on.
hour and a half. And Emma and her great help will just refresh you with some pre-reading for that.
It's next Monday.
This next Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to you, David.
The 5.1, just on the LT, I said there on the LTP engagement workshop. So I'd update you with on the 6th. Karina and I talked with 2 council reps and 2
Manawhenua.
mana whenua, marae reps, and the Paul Jennings, the facilitator of that meeting, and sorted out some stuff. There's the mana whenua still haven't committed to actually attending. They've got another hui on that at that time by Wakatu. So, but in the meantime, the invitations went out to a broad range, and 25 people have agreed to come. And I'm personally, without, I can read them out if you like, but I'm very happy with it. Covers all, pretty much all bases very well. The council is now taking over that. I think it's Alan Bywater. Yeah, he's taken over that now in terms of sending out pre-workshop material for those who are attending. He said he's sending out similar to board members, all board members. So I've handed that over to him.
You want to welcome people there because you've been involved in the lead up. You want to?
I'm happy to do it if you wish
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Very, very minor.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, just add and in there with it. A little bit of I told you so, I suppose. The open meetings where it was open to anyone to turn up. They had one at Wakefield, we were told, one at Wakefield and one at Richmond before our meeting, and 2 people.
Richmond.
2 people in Richmond, 2 people at
Oh,
Wakefield.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
That's so we got 25, and they're all people who are involved very heavily in various aspects of our community. So I think that in terms of getting those people together, I'm very pleased with that. And the other thing I did mention there was that this room is booked for 2 days after that event on the Friday, the 28th, and council said they'd be happy to leave the collateral material, the posters and things around if the board wanted to advertise and anyone come along activity, in which case we'd advertise in the Guardian next week, Wednesday. That'll come in, give people 2 days if they want to attend notice, and can also go on Facebook and so forth. But it would just need some community board members to actually turn up and be there.
What that date again?
28th,
Friday.
3 to 5 and 28th.
Oh, it's already a placeholder in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the thought?
Sorry, I'm just.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, the idea of the 26th of April was to invite key representatives of the community. So we had a broad range, so we weren't going round in circles, which is great. So we're sort of covering another issue then on 5.2. It makes 5.1 relevant, really. If we're going to do a drop-in centre for everybody to come in, why are we having the one on the 26th? So we don't need the one on the 28th, is what I'm trying to get to. we're doing both.
The
point of the
option's there for the
26th was-
wider public rather than
Yeah,
the
but-
cross section that's coming.
Yeah,
That's been
but
invited.
the point of the 26th was so that we weren't, you're the one that said it, so correct me if I'm.
Oh, well, I suppose basically, and this largely from what Barry suggests, sorry, Councillor Dowling, this is the last meeting we had. That if you had it open to the public and just advertised it that way, with no structure to it, and then you get the same 5 or 10 people will turn up. And well, if you're in Richard's case, you get 2 people turning up because that's what they advertised. So this was this is a facilitated thing. It might be sort of all wandering around and talking to each other and looking at things and writing things down. It'll be done with guidance as to what we're going to talk about next, go away in groups, discuss, get thoughts from a variety of people. That's the idea behind it. I should mention, I suppose, that John Ridd was at this meeting, was one of the 2 council people at this 6th of April meeting. And he emphasised the fact that, especially with the 3 waters or affordable waters dropping out of the LTP scene, then we're basically council starting from scratch, really, on the LTP process, engagement process. In previous years, it's always been a certain type of pattern, and looking at a new way of doing it, and letting people in a guided way. Sorry, I'm getting a bit waffly here. Just no meetings where people come in, look at a board, and have a council member standing or a council staff member standing beside a board saying, "Are you interested in this or something?" Or what's your big thing? You get no engagement whatsoever. Whereas if you've got facilitated and you have a discussion about, what do you think about, I don't know, whatever he does.
So 5.2, the question is there an appetite for board members to have a second drop-in session on Friday 28th, or we just want to hold with the 26th?
Can I just elaborate on that? Just from that meeting, the reason that there was a placeholder put is because at our last community board meeting, it was raised about the exclusive meeting that we were holding on that 26th of April, and that we may not be reaching all of the voices of the community that we actually need to hear from. So allowing that session to go ahead, and then the 28th open to anybody that wants to come in, and all that information will be available, and we will be able to relay what that evening.
Thank you for explaining that.
So the remains is there availability and appetite to have the second one on the 28th? Are board members available to do this on the 28th, or are board members unavailable to do this on the 28th?
I don't know.
I can commit to the 26th. It's the 29th.
So no.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't want to do it on my own. Wouldn't do it on my own.
So available, potential, no.
Oh, I can make myself available. It's hard to know if anyone, it could be like Richmond, we could be sitting here playing Monopoly. But I just had one question.
Richmond doesn't have a sense of community.
Ouch.
I'll pass that on to the councillors.
Passed it on already today.
Is that right?
Obviously, passed it on today.
I didn't realise how that sounded.
One of our leaders.
I've got it in my diary to come to it, so.
Yeah, I've got it in my diary too, so I'm checking the appetite. So
Yeah, it doesn't have to be elected board members who have been at the previous 26th meeting who know how to go about presenting ideas.
So if that's the case, let's do it on the 28th, and the organising of the advertising for the Guardian, who was doing that? The chair, I take it.
Oh,
Or is it
people might do it.
Okay.
So, sorry, I just quickly ask, now that Ellen's picked that up, are we still, because initially board members were going to sit in each of those groups and facilitate that discussion. Do you know if that's, I just would like a run sheet so we know what we're doing if we have to be involved in that. Well, because Gina was going to come back with some
I haven't heard any more. It felt a bit scary to me. Usually in even breakout groups, as you call them, usually they just elect their own person who's going to write down what everyone said.
To be fair, one of the suggestions is if you let the breakout groups self-elect who's going to speak back, but it'll allow the board members to float, engage in some of those conversations rather than lead them.
I just wasn't sure what out, because that had been spoken about, that we were having to facilitate, and I was like,
Yeah, maybe if Alan could at least let board member Armstrong know his plans and expectations of the board, and let the board know what our expectations are 4 or 5 minutes before starting.
or a day or two before,
Yeah,
just in case.
and that'll be along the lines of is it a joint hosted OE? And in that, and
No, I should have said that. I apologise. It's not going to be a joint hosted buoy.
okay.
It's not. They said they would like to attend, but now they've got another in competition, so we still don't know, but they're definitely not.
Okay. And then the 28th, we'll get the advertising done. It'll be informal drop-ins with the information on anybody that's available, but it's in my diary. Okay. Special projects, how are they looking? Is there a? Oh, good. Okay. So defer till May. Great. Any updates from anybody who's attended the community or council liaison? So any of the liaison things? Does everybody have any success? I still haven't. Sorry, a couple of mine I still haven't been to.
One year, I don't know, do I have to go to the museum to find out when their meetings are on?
Yeah, it's the same issue I have with Walker Hall in the Elementary School. Sorry, Elementary Hall. And so we were appointed, but we have no idea.
Yeah.
But
I even answered that, but the risk of sounding critical of staff members, the resolution that we made back when we did appoint the liaison person, that I think it had multiple parts. And the last part was that the staff would tell the various groups who their liaison person was, and presumably have contact.
maybe they don't want us.
Just talk about it. I'll give you a short, yeah.
The our town Motueka, I have been very, very well informed and communicated very well with them.
Right. It's awesome. Well done.
Their heart will never let me forget.
So, from anyone that's attended anything, is there anything that you want to raise, bring up? What, everything's fine.
Not sure this is the governance sessions with Golden Bay and Motueka, they got cancelled or something. Are we re-establishing those?
Shall we pick them up in a sec and do items from public forum?
Yep.
In terms of noting, and it was probably good timing in terms of Jude just noting that not everybody has means to social media or access to internet communication. So again, really, really good to hear that they actually were door knocking in terms of that. That's what up into streets for people project. And then the pool we'll get to. And then
sorry.
Mr. Halley, in terms of the forestry / and the gravel build up on the rivers. So how we manage hazards. In terms of, I can't recall the forestry / but it's an ongoing question that counts as well.
Drummond is doing some work on that. As you'll know, there's an inquiry going on in the Bush and the Gisborne area at the moment. Keep an eye on that, because the outcomes of that might mean we change our plans on how forestry operators work. At the moment, forestry operators in this area, they've got to have a deforestation plan put in place and approved by the council before they start removing forests.
So
that's monitored.
Maybe at a high level, is the board interested in getting an update in terms of forestry review practices and management of gravel build up of the river? It's just a paragraph response from Kim next month after in terms of that. And then when it hits that, it can be the response.
The gravel one, we'll recall that Giles came and did a presentation on that. So it's not just about removing gravels from rivers, it's actually making sure the health of the rivers looked after.
So the great part about it is Giles's presentation can get circulated to board members. It's public, it wasn't a.
Yeah.
So then that's part of that, questions asked, board members will have answers, and then you can ask any other questions if you do or not. I don't think there's any danger in, I think it's worth it.
Quite happy for that information to be set out. The only thing is, some of the graphs and that he had are very complicated. Unless you have an explanation of it, you don't have a clue what it's on about.
And maybe it could be a summary, and if there's more questions that come out of that, then, but you got an executive summary part of that.
David Stevens did a bit of an executive summary, so he could actually present.
So I guess the outcome is a heads up or a high level update for the board in terms of forestry land, which we sort of know that there's a national review and that going on, and then the gravel build up Motueka River. And the other one, I guess it's an annual plan submission part in terms of the $3 million, the long-term plan. It was raised by Mr. Ogilvie.
Not sure if that's in next year's, isn't it? Probably grant, you know, if the $3 million for the Motueka pool was in next year's annual plan.
It has been deferred as part of the saving.
I thought it was still there. I couldn't.
It was pushed out a year.
For
The LTP. And I suspect in light of the report that's come through that 3 million is probably a slightly different figure.
And I guess, so the response to that is, if it has been pushed out, that's an annual plan submission opportunity for their board or individual.
More an LTP position. You can do an annual plan if you want to, but it's more of an LTP one I would thought.
Because it's a variance annual plan, it could be in it, but the result will be 2.5%. Oh, it'll be loan each year, isn't it? But it'll be a rate increase on top of the 9.06. So, does the board have a view? We can get that at the annual plans workshop we're having on Monday. So one of the things we can park is that something the board wants to strongly push back in their submission in terms of the 3 million being deferred a year. And then we've addressed the Courtney Street property by the report being removed. I think that's it. Is there anything else in
Williams?
I'm sorry.
Williams is here.
Thank you.
May I answer what I just found out, Mr. Williamson, tonight? You mentioned about the request of the community board right to the Tasman District Council recommending that the cycle lanes are suggested that we put the money to Motueka by the government to purchase land for the purchase of a heavy truck bypass. Well, we were all made aware that this money is obviously given to us with clauses, and it's clearly for cycleways and nothing else, otherwise we don't get it. But I am certainly hearing what you say about a bypass, but I've got a feeling that people have been hearing about bypasses for 20, 30 years. At least.
Less more, perhaps to get some.
Yeah.
So the other parts, I guess, the speed down Thorpe Street and those side roads was part of that conversation and unintended consequences of creating stronger walk cycleways, which pushes traffic to find the easiest place of resistance. And my understanding is the water treatment plant has a generator because it was noise tested. We're going to Councillor Dowler to confirm. But the new water treatment plant in Parker Street. I'm sure I read a report that said the only time a noise exceeded was with testing of the generator. Has a generator on site?
I don't know that detail.
Oh, let's find out. We could just have it as an action for Mr. Kirby. But I'm sure I've read in
Something else.
that project, it was the only time that there was an excess above the consent for the noise consent was when they were testing the generator. Anything else for public forum?
Just quickly, just jumping back to the communications thing. So do we have an option for the community to drop into the service centre or the library? Is there like a feedback box or something if if they can't access anything online? Has we got any?
We've got a drop-off box when we're not there. People do post things in.
Otherwise, they'll just come to the counter and say, there's a pothole. So. Okay.
And often it's just a customer service request, the staff fill it straight in.
Awesome.
So the other option is, the ward councillors are still trying to find a time and a date and a frequency about meeting, being available at the library for people. And the board could also do the same, in terms of having a time in a month or some time where people can just come and talk to you.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Will you do as member Armstrong did and email back all of the attendees with communications from outcomes from the discussion?
I don't know on that list that I've got enough detail to do that. On the handwritten one,
Just
Yes.
acknowledgement of thanks for coming and this is sort of where we're at.
the danger is in what I put in that. So if you just want me to acknowledge, thank you for coming and board discussed, you're right, thank you very much. But if I form an opinion beyond that, you might not like that.
As an outcome.
Yeah. So there isn't, the outcome I could, so I'll take Mr. Helliers, for example, because the outcome could be, thank you for presenting at public forum today. As a result of your public forum submission, the board has asked to be further informed around forestry safety and gravel build-up. Thank you.
Yep.
For Jude, it could be thank you for your presentation and making us aware of not everybody has access to social media, and service centre is an ability for you to drop in, but I don't know anything. I can't write anything more than that.
That's good though.
Yeah, okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And Mr. Ogilvy, your best course of action for the 3 million from the LTP is to submit the annual plan. Thank you for your presentation. Is that what you want me to?
I assume that I adopt that consciously with question from Councillor Walker. That would be for people who don't stay on for the rest of the meeting.
Right.
People who are here, you don't write because they're hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson, Mr. Ogilvy, that okay, all right. Note the correspondence, any conversation, any discussion on the correspondence?
Yes, please.
Dogs?
Yes.
Yes.
Dogs. Thank you, Emma, for mentioning it to the animal control people when they came to the council. So basically, there was discussion around this, looking at a stencil on the footpath that they were looking at. So is that happening? When is it happening? Can we make sure we've done work on that so it doesn't get? Yes, please.
Any other discussion? Just the responses you got, board member Armstrong from High Street was actually quite really positive. The emails and
The camp fence.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised.
yeah. Take in mind, I passed those on, his name on for the person to contact.
No, no.
So I knew the details.
I've been, David passed the name forward, so I've been liaising with Wakatahi Direct and also with Graham Wilson, who's the chair of the Motor Caravan Association. So it's very, very proactive.
The resolutions the board receives, which we community board chair support. Before we do that, I'm probably going to regret ever doing this, but it's the one opportunity through the chair's report if you need to raise anything that may need to come back to this table through an agenda item for board members. Just have 5 minutes if we need it. So anything you want to raise?
For next month's agenda.
Or for the following month's agenda, yeah.
And I would like to add to the agenda the parking limits. I've spoken to Tim Drummond and he's sort of advised of the process and he's happy to do a report on that to.
Does the board keen to request information in terms of how there could be an amendment to the bylaw for parking in Motueka? Yeah, just as an action list email, because I've seen some of those emails. So now that so it's just a report, an early report saying what is the process and the consequences of reviewing Saturday parking in Motueka. Yeah.
When you say reviewing Saturday parking, you mean removing restrictions?
Removing restrictions on a Saturday. Yeah.
process on that is that I indicated that our town Motueka would probably be a good starting point. They recommend it because they're the ones that we believe probably initially asked for that because of people parking all day and not being able to get to shops and all that sort of thing. If they are supportive of the removal of all of that, then they submit to us as a board. Yes, if you believe that's correct, you put a submission through to Kim, and we have to initiate a process to change the traffic and devices bylaw.
I guess at the first point, I'm interested in just a brief report from Kim about the process of doing that. And that will be perhaps consult with our Te Motueka. But at the moment, there's been some emails, but nothing through the table is what's next. So what is the step?
The process that I've just given you gives you a good indicator. If we just do the amendment to the bylaw based on your request here.
Not asking for amendment, asking for what is the process for doing that, which is basically what you're telling me.
And the process we do is that we do the amendment to the bylaw and we advertise it and consult on it. People then can submit. It's a formal process.
I know it's a formal process.
And it has hearings. You have a hearings panel.
No, I think that's the paper that's missing. What is the process to go down that
That's
track?
what Kim is wanting to present.
So don't take the dog from not saying, I want a paper to change the bylaw. I want a paper to say, these are the repercussions, these are the steps, and this is the workload that takes to review parking bylaw in Motueka. That's the first step. Because whilst it's of interest to the board, it's not necessarily what the board wants to do. I don't want to jump directly into a dog bylaw review without full understanding the consequences of opening the can.
Yeah.
I've just outlined it to you, so I'm not sure why you want me to go any further with that.
More in from
I
here.
don't think you have because I cut you off. So there'll be work on a bylaw amendment.
Yep.
There'll be a panel comprised of who, how much time will that take from?
There's got to be a formal report to council, and council has to approve consultation on the amended bylaw.
Does that from the community board have to create?
I'm suggesting, because otherwise, if you get just think at council level, you can see what's going to happen. Everybody says, well, where'd this come from? They don't know about it. Our Te Motueka, all of a sudden, well, what's going on here? And we have people come out of the woodwork, and you just got to make sure that it comes from the right people and that those that are fully aware of it, when it comes out, it's not a surprise.
I think from past experience, very passionate to change the dog bylaw until the understanding of the work and the pushback in the community was there. I don't know if the understanding of the work and the pushback and the differing views for changing the parking bylaw, whether this board's aware of what that relates to, because I would be pretty sure that council will resolve, you set up the hearings and do the bylaw review in the community board. You do that work, but see, board member Hughes, board member Graham probably don't know that process. Or that workload. So what exactly entails if we go down this, if the board requests down this track, what is the consequence of that? What's the
Dwayne Fletcher and his team, because they look, and Garrity, they're the ones that do the consultation on.
Just a little bit on terms of this is the process. There are, if that makes sense, because I could be wrong, but I'm not sure that every member understands.
No, I
Board
don't.
member Knowles will, because I've done.
No, he does.
And you might be able to speak to the workload.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more, but it was worth it.
You get to make local
It was
decisions.
worth it. It was worth going through the process. I don't know if you want to choose what to start with. You know, you might want a simple one. Trees. Like trees. Yeah. But seriously, it's worth going through it because you learn so much and
And what I'm hearing in the meantime for board member Hutt and board member Hughes, your links with our Te Motueka of some formal guidance from that organisation based on the members' feedback would be handy.
Report back.
Has it just gone dark?
yeah.
How about 7? How about 6?
All right. Is there any other? No?
Cheers.
Okay, I get the hint. Okay, so I'll move the receipt of the chair's report, seconded by board member Armstrong. All those in favour say aye. Against carried. Okay. Financial summary taken as read. 7.6. Somebody move. Oh, the actions in the chair's report.
Ahead of heaps.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
it's all
so.
changed.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back.
There's only
Here we are.
four.
Councillor Walker Waiting. Walker playing fields, I take it's going to be part of the LTP process. Is that where that is?
We've got a meeting in June.
Okay. Mr. Kirby would have done that.
It was find out who.
Planter boxes?
Planter boxes.
I talked to Beryl about that. She thought our town, Motueka, was the one that initially installed them. Is that right?
I think the ones you were talking
Planter
about with my
boxes.
brain cold
Right.
for a few days, they were
Yeah.
those tubes there to help replace the ones that were removed for the upgrade. I believe they'll be given a contract with one of them for the first year, then nobody seems to know what's happening with them now, but that's.
I need that.
Yeah. The people in the room might know.
I remember what next
As
as a response to the outrage of loss of.
So we've got planter boxes that were put in by our town, Motueka, and a planter box put in by NZTA. Is that right?
Street ones are NZT.
We haven't, our town Motueka has not put any planter boxes
Okay.
in at all.
Right. I would-
The ones on High Street, Waikato on State Highway, are the ones that we're complaining about.
Who put them in?
And what could you say?
Replace the trees.
I
Yeah.
think it was to a try and see, and actually didn't appease anyone.
Whose responsibility was the trees?
Yours.
Now met for 1 year.
And I think they were contracted by what?
Mr. Kirby,
So
without being cheeky,
NZTA
that was the
back
question you were meant to find out.
I could ask the question, but staff can get back to me. I'm not going to blame them.
That's all we can find out. Find out.
So what's happening with the trees now?
We're going to go cut them down. But
You have to.
Good to go.
So in all serious, have we got a plan to maintain the planter boxes in High Street? We don't, but can.
Don't have a plan,
Can you
but
include that?
you have to take it on board. Okay.
And would I be right in assuming that the other planter boxes historically were part of, yeah,
Right.
that whole furniture?
Sorry.
The
Hello there.
furniture down the alleyways or keep Motueka.
Ah, okay.
The other issue with the,
Yeah.
while we're talking about planter boxes, the other issue as well with them is where they're growing, and obviously going to grow bigger, is it's actually covering the signage of the shops. So, I mean, I'm not making this up, Mr. Kirby. I
know you're not making it up.
I have been.
The problems that having trees in the main street.
Yes, so there are issues on the planter boxes. The street sweeper can't clean behind them, and they're not very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and they're also now obstructing the signage of the businesses' names.
Sounds to me like you want them taken out.
It does. It sounds like she wants to know who's looking after them. We'll start with the first point.
Traffic management. Step ladder and care.
Actually, can we do something? Can we do something with them when we put Christmas lights or something up? So at least we can stop the traffic and use the existing team.
Oh, yeah, so around that time.
Okay.
I'll let Grant have consideration
And we're catching up next. Is that right?
I would rather have councillor Walker present.
Okay, so we'll defer, so we'll leave it as there and you arrange a time and date and that's from, okay, so not tonight. You're saving me because it's about 6:30 already.
Isn't it?
Any discussion? So moved, Maru, seconded, Armstrong, all those in favour, aye. Yes, Gary. Financial, somebody to move? That, yes, is that Hart? Second? Hughes, any discussion? Was there any update? I did see I don't think I saw an in-stone update about the carryover of the pool of money for training for the board.
I can't remember the detail now, but it's clear that it would carry over.
Yeah, there's been an agreement, training's been.
Okay, so
training's still trying to be arranged.
Yeah. Moved and seconded. All those in favour, aye. Yes, carried. Special projects. Are we going to do this or hold this until next month since the list hasn't been done yet?
I think these are the old ones.
These are the old ones, but I don't think, is there any updates on the old ones? Actually, we have all the reserves team here. Let's talk about Thorpe Bush and accessible playground equipment and what else is on there? And hopefully the skate park's starting this week.
That's in 1st of May.
That's next week.
Yeah. Okay, so skate park will start 1st of May, which is on the bottom of page 51. What are we up to with Bush Playground and that $10,000 and money for the accessible playground? Just page 53. So there's $40,000 sitting in special projects that have been sitting there since 2021 and 2018.
So the accessible playground equipment has been purchased, the carousel. So, and we're just working on the layout design for the remainder of that area.
Coming here?
Yeah. Okay. And Thorpsbush or Tamatu has been finalised as well, but we do need to carry out some consultation with the youth councillors around that. And also, I think it was going to be local.
Does it keep Motueka beautiful and
And it might have been some local school children as well, in terms of some input from them on sort of Maori design and maybe some aspects around.
so that funding still has some use for those projects that were, so there's still work being done on those projects. And one's been purchased, that's great.
A lot of that will be dealt with by a new team member, started last week, Tony Strange. I've been covering that role for 2 months. He's now on board, so that will be.
He used to play basketball.
Played for the Giants. Yeah.
And Elton's come home, eh?
There's no favours, all right?
It goes back, it's been a few years. I know Mr. Collier as well, but didn't get me anywhere now. Oh gosh, being naughty. Any other updates in the community projects? So Marahal's okay.
Tax is still ongoing.
Yeah. Just receive and look forward to the scores and the bits for the next one this next month. Do we move receipt of it? Probably.
Yes.
Move receipt of it?
Let me just comment also about the better off funding for around here, landscaping.
Oh, yes. So Steve Richards is undertaking that project, finishing off the landscaping around the library.
Oh, great.
Do you know if Keep Motueka Beautiful have been consulted on that? Because I've heard from them that recently that they haven't.
So they will be, that Steve's only undertaken to take that one on in the last week in consultation with our BMO office, because it is better off funding, so it's managed by Jimmy and that thing. He's coordinated that with Steve.
I understand it's off an old plan that would been done, a landscape plan, and we're just looking to modify what we can do because we don't have sufficient to do the whole lot. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Not sure if Keep Motueka Beautiful was involved in the original landscape plan for the city about that.
But you know, where I was at the meeting.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. Just talking to them again now about how we would have to modify it to meet the budget. Yeah.
Lot less concrete, I believe. Lot less hard surface.
Their partnerships.
Errol might know the details. Errol, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, a lot of concrete, probably more open space. We've been watching space and talking to the Dilian librarian. It seems to be quite a lot of young people and used as a favourite performance space. So the things will be moved to the side and there'll be some softening of the building. But we're looking at the pathway to the side of the building here and maybe some adjustments to the summer garden, some rubbish containers, upgrades for performance and seating and trees and things like all to the road.
Nice.
More true.
Thanks.
Living Armstrong.
And to add, there's a good probability that the special project this year, and the results coming very popular, but $10,000 also added to that fund just to.
You might want to get that water feature.
Yeah.
So move receipt of special projects.
Yeah.
Just go hut down. How's that? All those in favour, aye? It's carried. Okay, we are now on items 9.1, and can I think the people behind me, but we're about to go and exclude it. Thanks for hanging in there. So can I please have, actually, do you want to take 3 seconds?
I don't think I can stay for this. Need a mover and second. To go into.
I just want, do we want to adjourn for 2 minutes? You go talk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I need your attention for 1 second. Can we please, please move into public excluded based on the grounds of section 7(2)H?
Yeah.
Somebody to move? Hart, second. Armstrong, all those in favour, aye? Aye, yes, and now we're going to adjourn for 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm not you. Yeah.